All right, so in today's video, we want to talk about the applications of area. Okay, so as I already said in the previous video, area is a geometric concept, right? Um, area talks about the space within it, the space within an object, right? It is different from perimeter because perimeter talks about how you're talking about the distance between, the distance around an object, right? Area is talking about the space within the object, right? The space within a shape, right? Now, in a practical sense, there are many different reasons why one would need to understand area. For example, say for example, you have a home, for example, right? And you're like, say you're remodeling a house, right? You say you have a tile floor and you're remodeling the house, and you're trying to remodel your kitchen, for example, right? And you need to know what is the area of the kitchen so that you know how much it will cost for you to buy, to basically to remodel it if you're using tiles in the kitchen, right? So as a practical example of area, right? So say for example, let's say we have this person named Mary, right? And Mary, Mary wants to remodel her kitchen. Right? The kitchen floor let's just say, hypothetically, it's, I don't know, it's like 15 feet by 20 feet, right? The kitchen floor is 15 by 20 feet, right? What is the area of the floor? What is the area? What is the area of the kitchen floor? Okay. If the floor, right, is 20 by 20 feet, then we can assume that it's a rectangle, right? So then we would say, okay, well, the area is length times width. So if the area is length times width, then the area is 15 by 20. So if the area is 15 by 20, then we do 20 times 15. And then this becomes 300, right? This becomes 300 feet squared, or 300 square feet, right? That means that the Mary's kitchen is 300 square feet, right? But then let's say, for example, so that answers question number one, right? But then let's say, for example, Mary says, okay, well, I know how much square foot is my kitchen. Now I need to go to I need to go to Lowe's, or I need to go to like one of those like construction places to figure out how much tiles I need in order for me to remodel my kitchen, right? So she goes to Lowe's, right? She goes to Lowe's and she goes to a Home Depot, or any of those like construction stores, right? And she goes there and then she's like, I want to remodel my kitchen. I need like tiles in order for me to remodel my kitchen. And the cashier or whoever, the person who works at the store says, well, basically that, we can do that for you. We can hire a construction worker for you to do that. But that each tile, let's just say, for example, let's just say hypothetically, each tile, costs $2 per square tile, right? Let's just say, right? Mind you, the floor, is 300 square foot, which means that means that if you get a square tile, that means that each square tile is 1 cubic feet, right? In order for the tile to fit into her kitchen, right? So she says, all right, I want to buy the tiles because I really need it, because I have to model my kitchen because, I'm in a rush or something like that, right? So the guy comes and says, all right, that's fine. If you, basically if you agree that each, square tile is $2, $2, then we'll, just give you how many tiles you need in order for you to, remodel your kitchen. So then she says, all right, that's fine. So then she tells the guy and says, well, my floor is 300 square tiles. So if she tells the cashier and says, well, or the construction person and says that my floor is 300 square miles, 300 square tiles, then how much does she have to pay when she goes to the cashier? So obviously, if $2 is for 1 square tile, that means that she would have to pay $600 to remodel her kitchen, because each square tile is $2 and each square tile is 1 square foot, right? So 300 times 2 is 600, which means that the amount that she would pay is $600 to remodel her kitchen. Because her kitchen is 300 square foot, right? That's an example of area. That's one example of area, right? An example of area would be, or at least a practical example of area would be to model your kitchen, right? What's another practical example of area? Another practical example of area would be, for example, if let's say, for example, you have a garden, right? Let's say you have a home, and you want to make a garden, right? And you need to know, well, how big of a garden can I make in my backyard if my backyard only have a certain amount of space, right? So let's say you hired somebody to measure your backyard, and you said, all right, I want to measure my backyard because I want to figure out like how big of a garden I could make in my, my backyard. So you hire somebody to do that. You hire a construction worker, and they measure your backyard, and they say, okay, well, your backyard is, I don't know, let's just say hypothetically that your backyard is 20 feet by 20 feet. Some backyards are bigger than that, some backyards are smaller than that, right? But let's just say it was 20 by 20 feet, right? That the area of your backyard is 20 feet by 20 feet, right? That's what the guy said. The guy said that the area of the backyard is 20 feet by 20 feet. So if the area of your backyard is 20 feet by 20 feet, then the area of your backyard is 400 square feet, right? Because you multiply 20, which is the length, and you multiply 20, which is the width, right? So you get 400 square feet, right? Now, say you said, okay, I want to, since I know how much my backyard is, how big it is, right? Okay, and I say, okay, well, since I know how big it is, I want to make, a garden or something, that I could fit in my backyard. So if you want to, so let's say you saw the person and you said, okay, like I want a garden that is, I don't know, 10 by 15 feet, right? The question is the garden, can the garden fit into the backyard if you make a garden that's 10 by 15 feet? That's the question, right? So let's try to answer that, right? So if we know that the area of the backyard is 400 feet, right? And we know that you say that you want to make a garden, and you said that the garden is 10 by 15 feet, right? So then 10 by 15 feet is 150 feet, right? So can you make a garden can the garden fit into the area? Yeah, you can. Why? Because the area of the garden is smaller than the area of the backyard, right? Which means that you could fit it. You could fit the garden into the backyard. A drawing of this would be something like, if you had something like this, And let's say this was 20 feet and this was 20 feet. And then we know that, okay, the area is 400, right? But then let's say you wanted to make a little garden, right? And the garden is 10, you know, I don't know, 10 by 15 feet. Something, it looks something like this, more or less, right? And you're asking, what you're basically asking is, this is the garden, and this is the backyard, right? And what you're basically asking is, well, can the garden fit into the backyard? And the answer to that is yes, because if the garden is 10 by 15 feet and the backyard is 400 square feet, then you still have 250 square feet left in your backyard, right? So that's another example of area, right? The first two examples that I've used is I've used, you know, when you're talking about like a square or a rectangle or something like that, right? All right, let's talk about it in a different sense, right? Let's say, right, we want to talk about it like, for example, let's use the same example, right? And we said something like, we have the same backyard. The backyard is 20 feet by 20 feet, right? And you say, okay, I have this backyard, right? Okay, I want to put a swimming pool in the backyard because I want my kids to, be able to swim in the backyard. I want to build a swimming pool in the backyard because I want my children to be able to like, swim, right? Because maybe where you live, they probably don't have like a swimming pool nearby, so you want to build a swimming pool in your backyard so that that your kids can have fun, like playing in the swimming pool, right? So you say, okay, it's the same 20 feet by 20 feet, right? But now let's say, for example, that you want to build a swimming pool, but the swimming pool is not a rectangular swimming pool. Let's say the swimming pool is a circular swimming pool, like one of those like little kiddie pools that they, that they have, that these little like kiddie pools. All right. So let's say that let's do a drawing, right? And we say, okay, we have the drawing. The drawing is 20 feet by 20 feet. We know that the area is 400 because we did this. We have the same backyard, right? So we know that it's 400, right? But then let's say, for example, you want to make a little swimming pool, right? You want to make a little swimming pool in the backyard, right? And let's say that the dimensions of the swimming pool, for example, was that, let's say the dimensions of the swimming pool is, let's say that the radius is 10 feet, right? Let's just say hypothetically you wanted a swimming pool that had a radius of 10 feet. And we want to figure out, can that swimming pool fit inside the backyard, right? Okay, so let's try to figure that out. So using the area of a circle, right, we know that the radius is 10 feet, right? So if we want to figure out the area of the circle, then we do pi r squared. And pi r squared would be pi 10 squared, right? Which gives us 100 feet. 100 pi, right? 100 pi squared, right? Square foot. Okay. Right. Now, because pi is about 3.14, right? Then we know that we just got to times it by 3.14, which means that the volume of the area of the swimming pool would be about 304 square foot, right? Now, mind you, you have a backyard that is 400, right, square foot. So the question that I'm asking is, well, can the swimming pool fit into your backyard? If you were to build a swimming pool that had a radius of 10 feet, the answer to that is yes, you can. You can, right? You do have enough space, but the the air the it, you know, you won't really have much space left really much for your backyard, because if you were to take 400 and you want to minus it by 314, right, you will only have 86 square feet left in your backyard, which means that you would have to be very wise with the amount of space that you have left in your backyard. So the question is, do you have enough space to build a swimming pool in your backyard? The answer to that is yes, you do. However, do you have a lot of space left? The answer to that is no, right? You do have space, but it isn't a lot, right? So that's the third example of area. The first two examples, as I said, I used area of a, this is area of a square or area of a rectangle, right? This is also area of a square or area of a this is area of a square and area of a rectangle. And this is area of a square and area of a circle, right? You might find that some questions may ask a question like this, but they may ask something like, you know, it may ask something like, how much space do you have left? This is an example of a multi-step type of problem, because you have to understand each step before you are able to, you have to understand each step before you're able to answer the question that's being provided, right? So this one combines, this is called, like a fit type of problem, where they're asking you, well, how much space do you have left? How much space do you have left, right? This one combines the area of the area of a what's the thing? The area of a square and the area of a circle, right? So this is so the third example is an example of a, can the swimming pool type of fit type of problem, right? All of these examples are practical examples of area. These are every day-to-day examples where people, who work as construction workers, who basically work as construction workers, but have to be able to know, because you have to measure these things in order for you to be able to do your job, right? So, these are 3 examples. Obviously, you cannot list every specific example of area because there's too many, right? But to get the general idea, this is some of the applications of area, okay? So that's it for today. Thank you for your time, and I'll make another video soon. Bye-bye.